Okay, so just checking my notes here. That's good, Anne. Okay, so our last lesson, we were talking about writing persuasive sentences.
Hi.
Hello. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm just getting used to this new computer. Trying to make a new whiteboard here so we can so I can share some information with you. Okay. There we go. Okay. So just to do a quick bit of revision, in our last lesson, we were talking about writing persuasive sentences. And so can anybody tell me, please, what is one of the three things that we need to create a persuasive sentence? Yes, Jim. Okay, so one of the three things that we need. Yes, Jack.
First, we need a clear point of view.
Very good. So first, we need a clear point of view. And what else do we need to write a persuasive sentence? There's two things that we always need and one thing that we sometimes need. So the second thing that we always need is at least one of our persuasive techniques. And finally, if necessary, we also need to include a call to action. So just to show you guys, just to give you an example of that. Okay, so just to show you that, where is it? So this first sentence here, this is a perfect example of a good persuasive sentence. And the reason for that is because we have all three of our requirements, I suppose, for a persuasive sentence. So number one, the clear point of view. Oops, getting messy writing with the mouse here. Isn't it a great idea to extend our recess? So we've got the clear point of view there, extend our recess. We know what this sentence is talking about. Number two, we also have the use of one of our persuasive techniques, and that is the actual whole first sentence there, and that is a rhetorical question. And then finally, number three, we've got the call to action. So we see there great use of all three parts of that, of the persuasive sentence. Okay, so today, the topic of discussion is writing persuasive paragraphs. Ooh. Sorry, guys, give me just 2 moments here. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I'm back. Okay, so the topic of today's lesson is writing persuasive paragraphs. All right, so To write a persuasive paragraph, we need four separate pieces to create that persuasive paragraph. And number one, we'll recognize this from the persuasive sentence. And this is a clear point of view in the first sentence. So the first sentence of a good persuasive paragraph, we need to make sure that we explain to the reader what our point of view is and what side of the argument that we're on. In the second part of our persuasive paragraph, we need to make sure that we include a couple of supporting sentences. So this is where, sorry, trying to talk and type at the same time. So this is where we expand on our point of view and provide the important details. So this is where we really get to explain our point of view rather than just stating what it is. Number three, which is one of our persuasive techniques, and that is make sure that you give evidence to strengthen your argument or to strengthen your point of view. So we always want to try and provide evidence in a persuasive paragraph to make sure that we've got more information that backs up our point of view. So if anybody tries to question what we're writing, we can point to that evidence and say, no, according to these people and this organization here, they also agree with what I'm saying. And finally, number four, we want to include a concluding sentence. And a concluding sentence is just one final sentence where we just remind our reader what our point of view is and our side of the argument. So the concluding sentence ties up your argument in a nice, neat little package. Okay, so these are the four parts of a good persuasive paragraph. And so what we are going to do now is we are going to, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you guys a few persuasive paragraphs. We're going to analyze them and have a look for all of these parts of a good persuasive paragraph. Okay. Okay, so I've put those four parts of the persuasive paragraph in the chat there, just so that everyone can have a look at it. So we've got that list there to remember while we're looking at these articles. So give me a moment to pull it up, and then I will screen and we can go through it together. Okay, almost there. Okay. And I just realized, guys, it's your final lesson today. So I'll have a final assessment to give you at the end of the class. Okay, so here we have our first, we have a couple of examples of some good Okay, so here we have some good examples of some persuasive paragraphs. This is a debate article from the website Time Magazine for Kids. And the topic of this article is, should kids have smartphones? And so we can see that this is an article based off of debate. So we'll read a few paragraphs from kids that think they should have smartphones and kids that think they shouldn't have smartphones. So we'll start with our first paragraph here, John Garofalo. And this is what John says. There are a few reasons that kids should have smartphones. First, phones allow parents to get in touch with their kids easily. Parents can see their kids' location and pick them up if there's an emergency. Second is education. An app like Duolingo helps kids learn Spanish and other languages. YouTube can also be a learning tool when it's used appropriately. Finally, smartphones help kids communicate with friends. If you move away, you can still stay in touch. This happened to me when I changed schools. Now I can talk to my old friends while I make new ones at my new school. So let's have a look here. Sorry, guys, I've just heard the doorbell ring. Give me half a second. I'll be right back. But have a read of this paragraph and then try and find all four of those parts of a persuasive sentence. And I'll come back and I'll show you what I found when I read it. I'll be right back. Just, yeah, so kitchen in here, feel free to use whatever you need. backyard areas out there. Okay, sorry about the wait, guys. Just had a couple of guests to check into the house. Okay. So, first of all, this sentence here, this first sentence, this gives us our clear point of view. So, he provides a few reasons that kids should have smartphones. So yeah, we've got a few reasons here why kids should have smartphones. So this is a clear point of view. We understand that he supports the idea. Next, we go on to his explanation. So first, phones allow parents to get in touch with their kids easily. Parents can see their kids' locations and pick them up if there's an emergency. So we've got a good explanation here, and we've also provided a bit of evidence in this next sentence. So, boom, boom. And then here we have an example of another thing that parents can do. So we've got evidence here by way of example. So we've got our clear point of view here. We've got our explanation here. And finally, we've got our first bit of evidence here. Next, we go on to second is education. An app like Duolingo helps kids learn Spanish and other languages. So there we have another reason. Second is education. And then we've got another piece of evidence by way of example. An app like Duolingo helps kids learn Spanish and other languages. And then we have another piece of evidence. Whoop. YouTube can also be a learning tool when it's used appropriately. And then one more reason or one more explanation. Finally, smartphones help kids communicate with friends. If you move away, you can still stay in touch. And then he has a bit more evidence, another example. This happened to me when I changed schools. Now I can talk to my old friends while I make new ones at my school. So he's provided 3 out of 4 of the, good, so 3 out of 4 of the sections that we require for a good persuasive paragraph. The only thing that he's missing at the end here is his concluding sentence. That should have been something like, and these are the reasons why I think children should be allowed to have smartphones. So it just ties off the paragraph nicely and just reminds you of what the initial issue was. So next we have a paragraph from Yuma Yano, and she doesn't think that kids should have smartphones. So smartphones can cause addiction. A study by Baylor University found that college students spend about 9 hours a day on their phones. Children are also vulnerable to addiction because they're not disciplined enough to set limits. They can lose sight of their interests, dreams, and schoolwork. Studies show that smartphone use can cause anxiety and withdrawal, harm relationships, and even damage kids' eyesight. I'm not saying that kids should never have electronic devices, but they should also go outside, make art, and spend time with family. Why waste time on a screen? So, Yumay's argument is actually a little bit more tricky because she's not fully arguing the point that kids should not have smartphones. She's just saying that kids need to focus on other things as well as their devices. So we have a look here. There's no clear point of view stated. She just goes straight into her explanations and reasons. So smartphones can cause an addiction. She provides evidence immediately. A study by Baylor University found that college students spent about 9 hours a day on their phones. So pointing out that it's quite a big problem. Children are also vulnerable to addiction because they're not disciplined enough to set limits. That is a bit more evidence by example. They can lose sight of their interests, dreams, and schoolwork. More of an explanation. Studies show that smartphones, so more evidence here. Studies show that smartphone use can cause anxiety, withdrawal, harm relationships, and even kids' eyesight. So more evidence here. We then have, I'm not saying that kids should never have electronic devices, but they should also go outside, make art, and spend time with family. Why waste time on a screen? So she actually does have a conclusion here, but it's a little bit wishy-washy. It's not like straight on the point that she should be arguing. She kind of backtracks a little bit. And in my opinion, that kind of weakens her argument a little bit. So not bad, not bad. She had 3 out of 4. The only thing she was missing was her clear point of view at the beginning. Let's have a look at one more. We'll have a look at Alina. And Alina thinks kids should have smartphones. So my opinion is that you can have a smartphone, but too much time on it isn't good. So we have a clear point of view. She says you can have it, but you need to use it carefully. Smartphones can provide entertainment, which we all need, but I know from experience that this can be addicting. Watching videos online isn't the best use of your time. With effort, we're capable of amazing things. YouTube won't really help you achieve them. And looking at a screen for too long isn't good for your vision. But if there's an emergency, a smartphone lets you call your parents or the authorities. If you need to remember something, you can make a note. These are the reasons that kids should have phones. So this right here, this is pretty much, for her age, this is pretty much a perfect paragraph. So we've got right here a clear opinion. My opinion is that you can have a smartphone, but too much time on it is not good. Smartphones can provide entertainment. So now she's giving her reasons. Smartphones can provide entertainment, which we all need. There's her explanation. But I know from experience that this can be addicting. So there's some evidence. She's giving you what we call anecdotal evidence, which is just a personal story, something that's happened to her and that she's telling us about to prove her argument. Watching videos online isn't the best use of your time, so there's a bit more of an explanation here. With effort, we're capable of amazing things. That doesn't really count as any part of the sentence. That's just of the paragraph, sorry. That's just something additional that she's put in. It's a little bit of a a little bit of an uplifting, there's hope kind of sentence. YouTube won't really help you achieve them. So there's a bit more of an explanation, saying that wasting your time on YouTube isn't going to help you achieve your dreams. And looking at the screen for too long isn't good for your vision. There's some evidence. That is an example. But if there's an emergency, a smartphone lets you call your parents or the authorities. So there's some more evidence. If you need to remember something, you can make a note. More evidence. And then finally, these are reasons that kids should have phones. So we have a nice little concluding sentence just to wrap the whole paragraph up and tie us back to her point of view. So Alina's paragraph, pretty much perfect for a piece of persuasive writing. She wrote that really well. Okay. So, sorry, Anne, I only just saw your message there. A concluding sentence, we use that just to remind our reader of the issue that we're discussing. So just going back to Alina's example, at the end of her paragraph, she wrote, "These are the reasons that kids should have phones." So it was just a little way to remind you what she was talking about. Because humans can be forgetful. As much as we try, we need reminding of things. So that concluding sentence just reminds us. You're very welcome. Okay, so the next thing I would like to talk to you about, I thought we had a few more lessons, guys. So I've got to teach you about another couple of topics. I've got to teach about another couple of things before the end of the lesson. And then I'm going to set you guys a final task that you'll have 1 week to complete. And if you do, I'll send you guys a certificate for passing the course. So do we have any questions before we move on about persuasive paragraphs? Very good. Okay, so the next topic I would like to discuss with you Okay, so the next topic I'd like to discuss is editing and revising. So this is perhaps, I'd say probably the second most important part of the writing process, other than, of course, the actual writing and getting your idea. So first of all, what are editing and revising? So revising, we'll talk about that one first. We'll talk about them in order. So revising is the part of the writing process where the writer rereads their writing and looks for any mistakes in spelling or grammar. So yeah, the revising is the part of the writing process where the writer rereads their writing and looks for any mistakes in spelling or grammar, or any words they feel don't fit their tone. So does that definition make sense to everybody? So if you've gone through and written, say, a piece, say you've written an essay for school, and it's an assignment, it's not an in-class one, but for this essay, before you would hand it in, once you've finished writing it, you'd go back over this essay, you'd reread it and make sure that all of your spelling is correct. You'd make sure that your grammar is correct, and you reread it just to make sure that you don't want to change any words or rewrite any parts of it. So that's the revising. And editing. Editing is the part of the process, excuse me. So editing is the part of the process where the writer makes the changes that they discovered during the revising phase. So revising is looking for the mistakes, and editing is actually fixing those mistakes. And this is very important, whether it's for a, excuse me, whether it's for a school assignment or whether you're a reporter for a newspaper, it's still an important part, because the last thing we want to do if we're writing for an audience that's going to be paying to read our writing, or just excited to read our writing when it comes out, we don't want them to read it and go, oh, spelling mistake. Oh, that's not right. Oh, that sounds a bit funny. Oh, I would have said something different. Oh, there's a spelling mistake. So we don't want that to happen, because it can take the reader out of the moment and it can make your writing less persuasive. So we want to fix all of those spelling mistakes, all of those grammar errors, and yeah, make it, I know nothing's ever going to be perfect, but we want to make it as perfect as possible. Excuse me. So there we go. Nothing will ever be perfect, but we want to make our writing as perfect as possible. So, oh, itchy nose. So the editing and the revising process are actually both very important as well. I'm just going to save those. So I'll give you guys a quick example of how I would edit or revise something. Share screen. Okay. So I'll go back and I'll use one of these persuasive writing examples that we used. So if I was going to edit this, let me just zoom in first. So if I was going to edit this, there we go. So I might do something similar to this. So I'd read through my title, why our classroom should go green. I might decide I don't want to use slang words in the title, so I'm just going to cross that out. And I might like to replace it with So I might choose to change that go green to something like become more environmentally conscious, because I don't want to use slang words in the title of my piece. And then I might, I'll go through this. Have you ever thought about how we could make our classroom more eco-friendly? I think that's good. I believe it's time for our classroom to go green. So we're in the body of the text now. We're in the body of the writing now. So I feel like it's okay to use slang words. One of the reasons is that it will teach us the importance of taking care of our environment. We can learn how to recycle. So here I would also probably say, that I want to put another line of space in between here. So there, so I would include a bit more space in between these two here. We can learn how to recycle, save energy, and reduce waste. Did you know that many schools who have gone green have seen a decrease in their waste and an increase in student environmental awareness? All right, I like that, that's good. Another reason is that a green classroom is healthier. Fewer chemicals and more plants mean cleaner air. Therefore, wouldn't a green classroom be a wonderful change? Let's propose this idea to our teacher and classmates. And so even though there's no spelling mistakes in this, if I were to come across a spelling mistake, I would, let's pretend, I'm just going to cross this one out for now. Let's pretend that for some reason I wasn't paying attention and I actually spelt the word green with the letter A. Let's say that that's actually the sentence there. So the way that I would edit that is very similar to how I would change words. So I would cross out the spelling mistake. And then just above it, I would spell it correctly. Now I always want to do that in a different color. So if the writing is black, I'd use red. And then once I've done all my editing, I would go back and I would make all of these changes. So I'd retype this piece of writing up and I would turn the title into why our classroom should become more environmentally conscious. I would fix the spelling of the word green and I'd put that line break into here. And then that would be a nicely edited and revised piece of writing. And then I feel like I could hand that into whoever I needed to hand that into. So I'm just going to go back and to our whiteboard and I'm going to add that back into add some notes here. So to fix a spelling error, grammatical error, Change a word or part of a sentence. Cross the mistake out and write the correction above it in a different color. Okay. And as well, so if you need to make a structural change to your writing, simply mark that change on the draft in red or in a different color. And the reason that we want to make sure that we use a different color when we're editing is so that we don't get anything confused, because sometimes when I'm writing the first copy of something, I'll actually do a similar thing to editing and revising. So I might cross out the wrong word and write above it the correction. So I just want to make sure that when I'm actually editing and revising the piece, I use a different color so that I can tell the difference. I know the red is the final version, and I know to listen to those corrections over anything else. Okay, so that is our editing and revising. Are there any questions about editing and revising? Very good. Then for the last few minutes of our class, what we're going to do is, I'm going to talk to you about counter arguments. So there are three things that I want to, there are three things that I'd like to quickly finish off with. So you've got arguments, you've got counter arguments, and you've got your rebuttals. So first of all, we start with our arguments, and our arguments, this is our point of view. So this is this. This is the position you take in your writing. So, do you think children should have smartphones or do you not? Do you think homework should be stopped at school or do you think kids should get homework? So that is your argument. That is your point of view. Now, a counter argument is the opposing point of view. So this is an argument that is made by somebody that disagrees with you. So counter arguments are trying to prove you wrong. You're a bit tired, Jim. So finally, we have rebuttals. And a rebuttal is your answer to a counter argument. So a rebuttal is your answer to a counter argument. So sorry, I can't write and talk at the same time. I'll type this out and then I'll talk about it. Okay, so a rebuttal is your answer to the counter argument. By being able to use rebuttals, you show that you have thought about your point of view from more than one angle. So you've considered it from multiple points of view, and that you understand, excuse me, and that you understand your topic well enough to defend it publicly. So if you can think of some rebuttals for any counter arguments to your point of view, then yeah, you really show that you understand your topic well. Sorry guys, give me 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, and so if you're able to produce rebuttals, then people are more likely to believe you because it shows that you have really thought about your issue, you really understand it, and you're not just writing something just to write something, basically. So I'm going to give you guys your final task now, and you'll have a week to complete this. Let me just find the details of it. Okay, so your task is going to be to create a persuasive brochure. And I'll post all of this in the Zalo group so you'll have access to the information. So your task is going to be to create a persuasive brochure. So the things you'll need to do are you'll need to pick the topic that you're trying to persuade me about. You're going to need to let me know what your point of view is and define the purpose of your brochure. There's a lot of instructions here. I'm just going to post it all in the Zalo group. I'll do that now. So yeah, give me a minute or two, guys, and then we'll wrap up. Okay, so I've just posted the homework in your Zalo group. So I've given you a list of instructions and I've given you the grading key. So how I'm going to decide what score you get with this brochure. So make sure you read it properly, understand what it is I want you to do. And if you have any questions, just send me a message in the Zalo group and I'll help you out as much as I can. So are there any final questions? Are there any final questions, guys, before we finish up today? Jack.
What is a brochure?
Okay, so a brochure, I know exactly what it is, but I struggle to put it into words. So a brochure is, you know, when I've gone completely blank. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to get a good answer for you. All right, so sorry, I just had to look up the right words to describe a brochure. So a brochure is it's a piece of paper that has important information on it. It is used by businesses, charities, and all other sorts of groups to give important information to the public. So it's usually just one A4 piece of paper, and it's usually printed on both sides, and you'll see that it's usually folded up into like 3 pieces or into like 3 parts. So you'll open it up, read it, flip it over, read it. But yeah, so you guys will be expected to like design it fully. So I want like I want it to look really nice. I want it to have lots of useful information in it, and all of the so like all of the, my words are failing me today, guys. And so yes, all of the grading expectations are in the Zalo group, so you'll know like how to score well and what to do. So are there any other questions? Sorry, Jack, that was a terrible explanation, but I got there in the end.
Thank you, but I understand.
Ah, very good. Very good. Okay. So if there are no other questions, guys, that's it. You guys have learned to become good, persuasive writers. So wow me with your brochures, and as you send them in, I will send you a certificate of completion for the course. So thank you very much for your attention over these past 10 lessons, and I look forward to seeing your brochures, guys. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye, teacher.
Goodbye, teacher. Have a good
Goodbye.
day.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.